Is it the mustache? Who knows?
Woo. Experimental Lab debut of Friend Spectate. Let's go. Finally. Hefty set of battle changes headlined by updates to 7 champions. Okay. You know what? Let's go to the cards. To the, yeah. Buffs and nerfs first. Focuses mostly on improvements to several foundations, set champions, small buffs, both direct. Okay. Can now trigger the same round as leveling up. I don't think Lucian needs the buff. Similar one to Jinx are intended to better align their level 2 effects with the way those of newer champions like Sijuan and Soraka function. Okay, I guess, yeah, as long as it's consistent with the rest of the champions in the game, it makes sense. Not sure if Jinx and Lucian need this balance-wise, but that's actually really scary. That's a pretty big buff to Lucian. They corrected their bad wording. No, it is a buff. Yo, Ognal, thanks for the resub. 6 months. We get that new mustache badge. Thank you. Okay, Shyvana does get the 1 attack buff, which makes her a more solid card all around. Just, her biggest problem was being understated in a deck that plays mainly for stats. Like Herald of Dragon into a 3-mana 4/4. 3-mana 4/4 sounds familiar, right, guys? Still see them in my nightmares sometimes. Vana's designed around attacking, but her stat line too often kept her from being able to profitably do that. That makes sense. Okay, Vladimir, let's go. Whoopsie. Reach attacking ally other than Vladimir. Reach attacking ally on my right. Condition easier to achieve and giving players more agency in choosing which allies are hit by the effect. Okay, so he needs 1 more tick to level up and more optionality, which in a Vladimir deck makes a lot of sense because it can take, find this spot as a hybrid deck where if you queue up against faster decks, you can't just go for full damage. And if you are the slower the controller deck, you have a lot of optionality in how much HP you need for your Nexus, which units you want undamaged to get value blocks. That's definitely a good buff. Card still doesn't seem that strong. Mainly because the archetype around this is not that great. Okay, so that is the buff a lot of us in chat expected. Sorry, the nerf a lot of us expected in chat earlier on. Which is a very fair nerf. This does make Trundle significantly weaker, mainly because he cannot value block cards like Jack the Winner, Genevieve, Vladimir, lol. But a lot of those 5 attack units, right? Ice Pillar health down to 6. That's fair. The card's just a super good additional freebie. Yeah, 6 health seems fine. Trundle is still strong. Maybe even still tier 1. But he's just not an auto-include in every Freljord deck anymore, outside of Ash. Pillar nerf is big. It makes the Pillar significantly weaker against overwhelm strategies. That's an interesting one. And it very often cannot pull 2-for-1 anymore, but just 1-for-1, and then dies to like AoE effects or whatever. Love the Trundle change. You cannot slam him mindlessly on the board anymore and have to actually think. Yeah, that's true. Like, in a lot of situations, he still does what he does earlier. Like, this change barely matters in the Trundle versus aggro matchups, because they don't really look to value trade Trundle anyway. But Trundle against mid-range becomes a lot worse. Which is probably something that the developer team wanted to achieve, right? There's very little effective mid-range running around in the meta right now. And this allows some other strategies, especially some Demacia strategies and stuff like that, to get back. Swiftwing Lancer now kills this. Like I said, Genevieve. A lot of other stuff. River Shaper Riposte. Lul. Wait, what? Okay, so that's what I said as well. 6+ enemies, but only deal 1 damage instead of 2. Yeah, I've been advocating this change for like 3 or 4 months, like for ages. And I'm very, very interested in seeing how this plays out. Like, I think that takes the frustrating factor of playing against Ezreal out, mostly. It opens him up in more aggressive strategies as well. In burn type of decks. While still being able to be a combo finisher. Who knows? Maybe Ezreal Karma can be played. No, it's probably much weaker now. But it would at least be more streamlined and more consistent, with more spread out win conditions. Okay, so Jinx gets the same change as leveled Lucian. If you play Jinx with an empty hand and she levels up, you still won't create a super mega death rocket right away. You need to empty your hand again in some way. So for example, if you play Zaunite, Urkin, or Rummage, you still need to empty your hand afterwards. It's still a buff, for sure. Similar as to what Lucian did. Now Shyvana can kill Trundle. Ooh, that's actually very impactful. Who knows, maybe dragons are gonna be a thing. Swain Ezreal is going to be much stronger. True. Good point. Rex is nerfed. Oh yes, I've been waiting for that forever. Taric could use better combat stats. I mean, Taric in itself, the card is strong. It's just that the whole archetype around him is not that great. It's a bit similar as to what Vladimir's main problem is. Vladimir in a mid-range deck that is board-based, you're not always happy to damage your own units. With Taric, it's just that all the support cards are not as strong. Still think Taric is not going to be played a lot, but he's more playable, I guess. Then again, we'll see what the meta allows Taric to do and not do. Oh, Tiana Crown Guard. 8 mana, 8/8. What can I say? Tiana was already playable before. Now she's actually a very strong alternative to a card like Brightsteel Formation. Like as a 1-off or 2-off, we might see this in a lot of Demacia mid-range decks. Yeah, I mean, Demacia's power level was rather weak. I think this is a good change, but this card is just very strong overall at this point. And very good, like, easy to combo, sort of. Thick Tiana, indeed. Vlad rework is dump. A lot of times you want Vlad attacking last to have a better chance of him leveling during combat. Oh, that's actually a very good point. Oh, it might have been more interesting to do it the other way around, right? So that everything to Vladimir's left gets damaged. Very good point. Wording Stone's back down to 3 HP. So for those of you who are rather new to the game, that's how I got to know the card. In beta it was 4 HP, then they made it 3 HP. And like a few months ago they made it 4 again, and now it's 3 again. That's fair. That hits Freljord super hard. Like that in combination with the Trundle change. I think War Mothers might fall down to tier 2, except that Field the Rush is still good. But like War Mothers and Trundle Asol are definitely taking a hit. So many buffs were reverted by now, that's true. 3 mana 3/2 instead of 4 mana. Ionia. So that's a buff to Lulu archetypes and potential Taric archetypes like Taric Ionia. But now it comes down at on the same turn as Lulu. Good thing is you can curve this into the Fey Guide, into the elusive. I find it very hard to gauge if this is going to see a lot of play. Like, you can definitely put this into Lulu or Taric decks. The question is whether Lulu or Taric decks are going to be good. Mina! Wait, what? What? I mean, she's still a 9 mana card, but damn, that's a huge, huge buff in one go. I get the idea behind it. I think Riot wants to increase the efficiency of end game finishers, right? Just late game cards, any 8 and 9 drop. And Ionia was kind of lacking that. I mean, they kind of had the bird that only works with elusives, but dude, this is definitely playable. Again, the question is whether or not the decks around it are going to be good, but Mina, like, I could see Mina be splashed in some, like, non-Yasuo recall, whatever decks. Card's just such a big tempo swing. It's actually huge. Mina always deserved quick attack after all Swift Foot. Yeah, that, but that with the +1/+1. It's pretty big. Lulu with Boxtopus and Demacia. Wait, that doesn't work though. Oh, you mean one deck with Boxtopus and one deck with Demacia. Funsmith. Heh. Still don't think the card's gonna be good, but makes it a tiny bit more playable and a tiny bit less memey. You never want this to be in combat anyway. Black Spear buff. That's fair compared to the efficiency of other removal in the game. I don't think Kalista needed a buff, but like the card Black Spear by itself. That's fair. That's very fair. Man, thank goodness. Here's the thing. Rex is still gonna be strong. Like, it's still gonna be included in most Bilgewater decks. The attack change barely matters. This does like affect the overall performance. It's not gonna be an automatic auto-include in that many decks anymore, but it's still gonna be strong. And one other very important thing to note is that the spell stack does not get clogged up as hard anymore, which allows for more interaction and counterplay. Kuvira is scared about this one. You mean the minus Swiftfoot change? Or is Funsmith? Combo piece that can OTK you late with S. Yeah, but that also requires multiple actions and a lot of, like, a big card combo, hand combo. This is such a big patch. Yeah, it's huge. Like, the whole meta is gonna be turned upside down. Well, maybe not quite. Yeah, I think there will be a lot of shifts in meta. Because War Mothers is such a, or rather Field the Rush and Trundle is such a meta-defining card that if we get a new top-tier, like, god-tier deck, a new meta-definer, everything around it is also gonna change. Clips Drag. What? The card was already good. This card is stupid strong. Okay, I don't know what else to say about this one. Like, it's not only well statted, but the biggest upside of the card was the optionality to make it a tempo card with a Daybreak effect or a value card with a Nightfall effect. Having that optionality should mean the card has some other drawback, which was why the slight understating was justified, but this is like, this looks really, 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 really strong. Okay, that's it for the balance changes. Let's scroll through the rest. Something about metagame snapshot. Okay, so it's basically literally just a meta snapshot with some stats from Platinum to Masters. Some deck ideas, sure. Oh, that's an older patch. 1.12. No big surprise here. Yeah, I'll check that out in detail later on, I think. Shanfiora. Sure. What else we got? New lab. Sure. Standard best of 3. Prep for the first season tournaments. Cool, cool, cool. A bit of competitive spirit for everyone. And this is huge. Like our initial implementation of Friend Spectate. Getting their Guardian, okay. But having the Oracle Eye and like, this is gonna make it so much better for casters. This is gonna make tournament casts in general so much better. I hope they still implement face cams into their tournament casts nonetheless, but this is so big, especially for competitive play. pretty early, still squashing bugs, have further updates planned. Disable spectate option. Okay, expeditions, sure, miscellaneous, updates to the leaderboard. Most used deck code icons. Alright, that's a big patch. Spectator mode is pure hype. So Trundle and Freljord Shadow Isles taking a big hit generally allows decks that were oppressed by those archetypes to come back in other fashion, and that would mainly be a lot of mid-range strategies. Demacia also got a bunch of buffs, dragons as well. They might absolutely be playable. If those types of decks make more of a comeback, then decks that counter those strategies like Ashe and like Swain TF are also going to be played more, which both also slightly struggled against Freljord Shadow Isles, right? So that would be my most likely meta prediction. Higher variety of mid-range strategies. I'm not sure if Vladimir and like Taric and Lulu and so on make the cut. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it feels like Ashe Sejuani, Swain TF are going to be really strong as meta answers. Ezreal is interesting. I cannot really gauge that yet. He might find his way into more consistent burn decks. I also try combo decks with him. I'm not sure how competitive he's gonna be, to be quite honest. I'm a bit surprised they chose 6 as the number and not like 4 or 5. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. One of the big problems of Ezreal is the amount of Hush that's currently running around. So I don't see him make a big impact on the meta yet, but I might be completely off about this one. Harrowing Ezreal that use Fading Memories. I mean, the deck's also just bad against Denies and stuff like that. Spooky Ezreal looks good. Maybe. It's worth a shot for sure. Passage unearned stocks. Kinda true. Yeah, Demacia got quite a bit of love. Tiana, Shyvana, Eclipse. Wait, Eclipse Dragon is Targon, I'm silly. But it's gonna be played with a lot of Demacia. And the Lucian slide buff as well. Village is still gonna be strong. But it's gonna see a bit less play. I'm not sure, like... Against some mid-range strategies, Bilge struggled quite a bit.